Welcome back to another episode of the Sport Management Office Hours. I'm Nick Zoroya alongside Brandon Podgorski, and this week we have an excellent guest who is I want to say an expert in many things, but our focus today is going to be esports. But welcome to the show from Endicott College, Dina Gentile. Dina, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And so, like I mentioned, you do many things. You're an author, you're a longtime educator, but you also were a college coach for a number of years, and that's something that Brandon and I relate to because we both come from the coaching world into academia. So, can you talk to us about how you kind of got started coaching at the college level, and then what was that transfer like to the classroom?
I mean, the greatest thing about the fields that we're in is that we all come from different spaces, but we all end up here because we want to give back to students, right? And so when I was an undergraduate student, I had the opportunity to play college ball, and I met some fantastic mentors in the club soccer space who I basically followed in their footsteps in terms of getting a graduate assistant position, which was a coaching position. And then found myself at Springfield College coaching their women's soccer team for 2 seasons. And then the position at Endicott College opened up 30 years ago. We were a single gender institution and with, I think it was under 800 students. And they needed someone to, or a group of people to build the athletic department, a major that would be attractive to males because we were going coeducational, and also to coach the women's soccer team. So while I did interview for other positions that were solely academics, solely administration, and solely soccer, I decided this was the best fit. And you don't know till you know. And so that's led me to being at Endicott for 30 years. And I coached the women's soccer team for 11 years. And those were just tremendous years. Forget the winning. We won a lot. We won a lot of championships, went to the NCAA tournament, but it was really those connections that continue to motivate me, because when I'm in the classroom, yeah, I'm a teacher, I'm an instructor, I have content I need to cover, but bottom line, these students are on my team, and I need to prep them every day. Every session is a training session for us, so that ultimately when they're out on an interview or internship or landing their first position, they have all the tools necessary. So I do believe that coaching is transferable to the classroom. We are basically coaching people up and sharing our knowledge base with them.
And that's something we've heard on more than one occasion on this podcast, the transition from coaching to teaching, how it's all similar, how we approach it, practice planning versus, designing a lesson plan. It's, you always do your practice plan for the whole season, working backwards from where you want to be. It's the same thing in the classroom. So, yeah, we strongly agree with you. Obviously, Brandon comes from basketball. I come from lacrosse. So a quick side question. So you went to Adelphi. Are you originally from Long Island?
I'm originally from Long Island, and my parents gave me one choice. You need to go to a school that's close to home. Luckily, pretty good soccer school. And
Yeah.
we went to the national tournament as well as a Division II institution. It started as a Division I institution.
Mhm.
So I have some amazing memories, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I have friends that played lacrosse at Adelphi, and they have interesting stories. That's for sure. And then Springfield College. So you obviously overlapped with Keith Bugby. Have you ever heard of the Springfield Mafia?
Listen, Springfield College is, to be quite fair, so many graduates from Springfield started Endicott College in our athletics program and coaching numerous teams. So the connection is very strong. I have fond memories of that campus. It's just really produced coaches. There
Mhm.
actually were numerous articles about how many coaches are in the NCAA that started at Springfield College. So I definitely look back at those opportunities as the things that have really launched my career here at Endicott.
So something I wasn't aware of, which you already alluded to, is that you helped start the program at Endicott. And so today, I mean, just being on LinkedIn and seeing, you and a couple of your colleagues all over LinkedIn, always pushing Endicott. How big is the program today? from a faculty, from a student standpoint. And then I would love to hear of any unique courses because you have been around for a long time. I want to say, it's never perfect, but you've had enough time to play with the curriculum for a few decades now. So that it might not be perfect, but it's definitely what you think is the best for the students today.
I think one of the best things about being at Endicott College, and the reason why I've been here for 3 decades, is my position evolves with the things that we're adding to our program listing. So we have a school of sports science, and we have multiple majors. In particular, the sport management major is robust. It always has been robust. It was definitely the reason why we were able to attract so many athletes, male athletes. And I was always happy with 20 students in a freshman class. So I measure everything by the number of sections that we have. So when we're booming with the number of sections, and we keep our class sizes small, 20, 25, I know that we are here and we're settled. The beautiful thing is that we have a number of majors grown certainly over time, one of the largest programs on campus, but we have minors. And one of the minors we started was esports management. And it started with a standalone course, interest across all majors. Then we decided it should be a minor. And then since it really did boom, it is now a standalone major. So I'm able to, again, this is another kind of evolution in my career here at Endicott, able to really tap the interests of a totally different student body. And I love it. So listen, I measure growth. I know admissions and everyone else measures growth by how many students are in your classroom. I actually measure it by our reach. And so, of course, when you start a new program, there are growing pains, but I actually look at them as growing opportunities. So I love it. I think it's just like intramurals. If you think about intramurals, right, we try to get everyone out of the dorms and out somewhere doing something. So it could be athletes, non-athletes, doesn't matter. Everyone's together, we're just playing. And I really look at anytime you have a new major on campus, while we're recruiting for, in particular, esports management students, we also know that there's an interest from other people who are in the computer sciences, communications, in sport management. So it becomes a more diverse classroom, which I love. And I don't think I answered your question, but to come full circle, I do think the metric to measure success of an academic program comes with the excitement around it. And we've done a number of things within the esports space umbrella on this campus that hopefully I can touch upon a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Dina, I'm interested to know the last institution I was at. We had a VPAA who was the later president, really pushed esports. And I think when we first heard about it as faculty, we were like, what's this about? And so we developed a minor. It had a little bit of success, but then we had esports as a sport under the athletic department, and all of a sudden we blow up. It's starting to become a main driver for enrollment. I think what we struggled with on the curriculum side with faculty is, what does this look like? What's the difference between esports and sport management? And as we dug in, it seemed like, there was a lot of commonality. However, there's like this whole other part as I look at the curriculum on your page where, students can come in and develop the games, kind of work on that back end. There's also the management of it, which is a little bit unique. I mean, we share some things with sport management, but it's a little bit unique. So can you talk to that? Like, a student going into your program, what kind of jobs are available? What are they learning? And maybe what's the difference with sport management?
Yeah, so right before the world shut down with the COVID-19 pandemic, we actually had the U.S. Army trailer on campus, massive gaming trailer. Our students were able to go in and interact with the gamers. It was really a tremendous experience and highlighted to me the importance of adding esports at some level onto this campus. So at the same time, my son, who probably at the time was about 10 years old, was an avid gamer. He started with Minecraft when he was younger, had multiple devices out, right? So he had a screen out. He also had an iPad, and it was a lot of watching YouTube videos, which is very unique to the esports space, to learn different things and to be able to get to the next level or to incorporate different tools, whatever it might be. He then graduated into Fortnite, which I thought was an incredible experience for me as a parent to observe everything that was being said. So during our shutdown and isolation, he still continued to interact with his friends, headset, screen, mobile device, iPad. And the language that I was hearing, the terms that I was hearing were things I've never heard before. Just coming out of the mouth of gamers, it was very specific. And I thought, I need to capitalize on what I'm observing. I basically, my son Quinn was my lab rat, so to speak, because I was listening, I was watching, I saw how healthy these interactions were. And as his friends came over, I would ask about the different skins they were using on Fortnite and why this and why that. So I start to peel back the layers, and I thought, from an academic perspective, we need to start to study the impact of gaming. And we also need to understand, now he was playing as an amateur, then progressed into, NBA 2K, which became more analytic for him, right? Building players and understanding statistics and what works. And then he became, as I was listening to him, he became the peer leader in his group for the builds, right? For the player builds. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. So from me observing him and also seeing the satisfaction he had outside of traditional sport, being able to stay connected, build teams, be excited about something, maybe be a little obsessed at times, but that's okay because it was something he was passionate about, right? We would want our children to be passionate about something. And that was his thing. So that's when I sat down and started writing and started researching. And I took to LinkedIn and I connected with over 100 professionals in the field who were gamers, who were esports organizers, who worked for professional teams internationally. And that's where the idea for the minor came out, the course came out, the minor, and then eventually the major. And I started writing a textbook through those conversations. And I do think that there are many models of incorporating esports onto a college campus. So we did debate. So academically, we're esports management. We could have been called esports, but we really are more tied to the sport management side of esports. So the organization of events, tournaments, teams, the marketing, the branding, all of the things that most sport management faculty are already comfortable with. So that was my motivation, was what can be a natural segue from sport management to esports management. We do have relationships with computer science on campus for the gaming side as well. So we've kind of combined with them, which is great. Again, showing the collaboration. I think any academic administrator would want that. So it really shows that we're using other faculty and courses. Then what about the teams? Because how exciting is that? We should have some team on campus. Why not? Our students that we're recruiting are playing already. So why not capture that attention? And so we decided that we would actually be, through academics, offering our esports teams under a number of game titles. And from that, we needed a space. The board of trustees at Endicott College, I met with them a few times, number of questions about what is esports, what is gaming, why do we need it? And I have to say they were so receptive because they too were observing what their children were doing, what their grandchildren were doing, and how interactive and engaging gaming really is at its core. So we actually built an esports lab. I love the word lab. I really do, because it could be a number of things. It could be used for our esports teams, which is what it is used for. So we play in a number of conferences, a number of game titles. We have our own Instagram account, social media, our own Substack. They are really taking it off. And we've hired an esports coordinator, and he handles all of that. So he handles like the athletic side of it, but he's still under academics teaching for us as well. And then within the esports lab, I can bring my esports management classes there. There can be interaction between the teams that we have on campus. We learn a lot from each other. And when you have something that's new, as a faculty, being open to learning from students is critical. They are there, they're the pulse of what's happening in the industry, and we bring in guest speakers. And so easily it could be called anything. But I think the biggest thing, especially within our sport management world, is what are our faculty comfortable teaching? What can we do to have a unique, we can cut out a unique position within the industry, and that's why we decided on esports management for our title.
I love that, and I'm in a similar situation. Just fast forward to now, because we have an esports certificate, esport management certificate, and it's actually taught through a consortium at the moment called Rise. And I'm not. Are you familiar with Rise at all?
I do.
Okay,
Yep, I've heard a
so
little
you're
bit. Yep.
familiar, and the idea is that we can take any course back whenever we want and teach it in house, and that's kind of where we're heading once we have enough enrollment in house to do so. And so right now we have 3 or 4 students a semester that are interested in the certificate. I would say we're halfway there. If we got to 9 or 10, I would pull the trigger and say, let's just do it in house, which then begs the question, who's teaching these courses? And so it could be me. I'm familiar as a user of esports. I'm still learning about how to do this from the opposite side, from being in the classroom. And that's why, I've been reading your book and trying to get kind of caught up a little bit. Like, I know about the viewership, I know, but at the same time, we're adding esports on campus. A local campus closed, and we said maybe this is the perfect time to absorb their esports program and run our own. So it could be like the perfect synergistic moment of all these things happening all at once that kind of leads us to having a certificate that's in-house and full of students and esports athletes taking it. I like the idea of a certificate because it is a little bit less intense, and it's a way to add something to a computer science degree or a business degree, sport management degree. I guess one of my questions is, though, as I go to recruit students into this program, I feel like we have so many sport management programs nationwide, and everybody wants these specific jobs. And we've talked about this at length in the podcast. You try your best to advise people on what's realistic. You might not be the GM of an NFL franchise, but you should still try, but maybe have a backup plan. I feel like so many times the jobs that students think are available and the jobs that they want just simply aren't there compared to the number of students we have in sport management. Esports, I can see the same issue maybe because I'm not fully aware of what the job market looks like. And so maybe you can just shine a little bit of a light on what does that job market realistically look at? Because I have a hard time selling a program where I'm like, I have no idea what you might do with this. So I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. I think we have the same situation in sport management for sure. And parents want to know what's the end game, and I get it. What I can say is that utilizing all of our resources will take our students to the next level. So at Endicott College, we have built-in required internships, 2 140-hour internships, and then 1 a full semester internship. So students need to leverage those experiences to figure out A, what they want to do, and B, what they don't want to do within their given major. And if they want to move into a different setting, they can do that as well. So I think adding an experiential learning component early on makes a lot of sense. It puts students at ease, it puts parents at ease, and it sets the stage. As far as the outlook for any industry, I think it depends on the student, right? I really put the onus on the student. So are you working on your communication skills? What are some other things you're doing to make yourself more marketable than somebody else? How many connections do you have on LinkedIn? How many organizations on LinkedIn are you finding? So just like when we started out, I'm sure my parents were not really happy that my mission in life was to be a Division I soccer coach. How many Division I jobs will be open when I'm ready to apply for it? Same thing as being a professor. I mean, there are just not that many jobs out there for the number of people who want them. So it is basically being able to carve out something about yourself that makes you unique within whatever industry you're in. And I would say that from an academic perspective, I do see more buildup of esports teams at the high school level and the collegiate level. I'd love to see our students involved in those two settings because they're probably most familiar with it. I also see the recreation area booming. So anything with recreation departments during our shutdown, during the pandemic, there needed to be a shift. There needed to be a pivot. Recreation departments who went to hosting FIFA events, FIFA tournaments, right, online, did a great job of capitalizing on just young people who are in front of their computers anyway, in front of the television screen, which most were back in those days, right? And capitalized on those interested young people. And so I do think the recreational area will boom. As if you think about it, listen, I was someone who loved video games in the 80s, very different than what we're seeing today. But without the 80s, without Atari, without ColecoVision, we don't get to this point. And so even as people age, as I age up, right? What do I want to do when I am at assisted living? So that's a whole spectrum and a whole setting that has not even been tapped. We can even look at hospitals and being able to be on a pediatric unit and being able to service young people who can't go home. So, but how do they still stay connected? So I think the difference between esports and traditional sport is how you can be connected no matter what, no matter where you are. And it really is sport for all. It is sport for all. So we're not the tallest, the fastest, the strongest. It really is for all. And I think students need to capitalize on that. Yes, they all want to work at the professional levels, but once they peel back those layers in the courses and the readings that they do, I bet they go into an area that they never thought about. And that's our job, right? So our job is to kind of illuminate experiences for them.
So did you have to reverse engineer kind of the curriculum a little bit then, kind of starting from what jobs can these students get, the skills that they need from those, and then come up with these courses? Because really you're breaking new ground. There's not a whole lot of esport management majors out there.
Right. So, I mean, I wrote the book, Introduction to Esports Management, and I took it basically from my teachings. I recorded myself teaching, and that gave me kind of the backdrop of the content I was adding. And then I inserted, based on the topic, professionals that are in that area. And so I think for an introductory course, you need to talk about all of the things, not just one thing. And I think you'll always get overlap when you're talking about different settings. Marketing, branding, all of that always seems to come up in my discussions in the introduction to esports management course. But it's the case studies, it's the examples that the students can look at and then become decision makers so that they get all of the different settings. So I do break it down by settings so that they can see. I break it down by target market as well in terms of consumer groups, behaviors of gamers, which very different than behaviors of traditional sport athletes. There's a lot of control that young people have when they're on a game, with the in-app purchases, with buying the skins, with all of that parents do not even recognize how intelligent their child is when they're gaming and all the things they're thinking about. How do I get this so I can move on from that? And so getting back to the course and just understanding the esports industry, I think we just have to take it in an intro class that we cover all of the settings, but overlap it with their interests and overlap it with case studies that make them think about, this is a setting that I might want to go into. So I just think we have to be excited about it also. Like, I'm excited about every outlook, every setting, whether it's sport management or esports management, because students can create things and they have to be the creators of content, but also the experiences that they collect along the way.
Absolutely. And your passion definitely bleeds through both now in this conversation and your presentations at Cosma. It's clear that you love what you do and you're very passionate about what you do. So you've written multiple books now, specifically the esports book for today's conversation. And I was looking at it in the format like you described. It's very much like an intro to sport management book, but you definitely lean on those industry professionals to fill in those gaps. And I think, Brandon and I and one other author are working on a ticket sales book, and we're kind of looking at it the exact same way, right? It's hard to be an expert in ticket sales without having done it for a very long time. So we're kind of developing the same thing. We're leaning on these industry professionals anywhere and everywhere we can in every chapter. As someone that's published multiple books now, what kind of advice would you give to people like us that are trying to like fill the knowledge gap? Because we do think ticket sales is a really underutilized part of our industry, and a very I guess it's a skill that's very hireable, and the
Mm-hmm.
students aren't really aware. They just hear it and they think here's sales, and that's all they hear. And they hear picking up the phone and calling, and a lot of people are immediately turned off before they even get to know what it is. So I think you've done that as well with esports, kind of filling that knowledge gap. So any advice you could give us would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just to give a pitch to your book, one of the things I talk about the most is that we're all going to be selling something, and it could be ticket sales. So get ready for it, and that's a very exciting thing. We just visited the Vegas Aces facility, and we walked through. We had a private tour, and we went to the second floor where the sales department was, ticket sales, and they are in competition to sell the most tickets, which is something we talk about in class, but students sometimes don't believe that this is what you do. It's important to sustain ticket sales so that we can continue on with our seasons, whether it's college, pro, whatever it might be. So when writing a book, my advice, my pro tip, is to honestly to record yourself teaching. If you're teaching that subject matter, just record yourself, because that is your script, and then you can just throw it into whatever program you want so that it's transcribed for you. And I think that's always a launching point for a chapter or some content in the chapter. And I wouldn't write the full chapter without interviewing people as you go through, because as you talk to professionals in the field, they give you great ideas that you might not have had on your radar. So while you might have your chapters all planned out, I do think recording yourself while you're teaching, because you say amazing things when you're teaching that you didn't have on your docket, on your lesson plan. It just comes to you. You'll say a phrase, you'll use a case study, you'll provide an example that you didn't think about. And then when you talk to a professional in the field, you overlay that, and that's where you really get your content. I also believe always putting in a decision-making activity, because it is something that students then can critically analyze. They can bring in research, and they can showcase and highlight that they have the ability to make decisions for a company that exists. And that's what I would do. I think students also love end of chapter questions for homework, to be honest with you, because it's a way to summarize the chapter. Sometimes they read the chapter, sometimes they don't. But if they're actually engaged with the questions at the end, you can use those questions in your classes, which as discussion topics. So that's what I would do. I do think talking to professionals in the field gives you a different direction, or enhances the direction you were going in as well. And what we do in my classes, so in the introduction to esports management book, I actually have for every chapter 3-4 professionals in the field, but then they go to LinkedIn and they connect with them on LinkedIn, and they update, because once we're published, it gets a little outdated, right? But they go on to LinkedIn to see what they're currently doing, and they might connect with them on social media. I do it with my athletic administration textbook as well. And I do get texts from the people that have been interviewed, because they know that they say, oh, did you just start a new semester? Because right now I have about 60 new people that want to connect with me. But you know what that does too, is it allows me to continue my connection with them. So we have something to laugh about. We give each other updates. How are you doing? You're starting your semester. Anything new with you? And then I do bring that back into the classroom as I get updated from the people who were able to contribute to my textbooks.
Love that
That's
idea.
excellent advice, and I know we're on the right track, because we were thinking about it the same way, right? We kind of think about it as we want to I'm going to use the first draft of our book to teach my course in the fall as a test to see how does it go. And we can pivot and edit on the way. But we have said case study or some type of decision making assignment. We have set discussion questions, learning objectives, but we're writing it in a way that it can be used to not only learn for a student or somebody new to ticket sales, but also primarily for people like us that can pick it up and take it and go teach it, because not everybody has worked in sales at all, especially maybe not ticket sales. So it sounds like we're on the right track, and I love the idea of recording yourself. I haven't done that yet. What I have done, which I highly recommend anybody do, is record Zoom conversations with those people that you're interviewing, because you can throw a transcript of that into ChatGPT and get a summary and be like, that's great for notes. Maybe I'll hit back on those later. But it's a time saving thing, and you don't have to sit there writing out your notes while you interview someone, which is always, it's such a weird relationship. Like, hold on a second.
Well,
Write that
I have to
down.
say there's two trains of thought. So I did record everyone on Zoom. I have another book that's being released in May. It's Reimagining Youth Sport.
Yep.
And so instead of interviewing every single person on Zoom, I actually sent out through email the questions, and they replied. And I thought that was an easier go, to be honest with you, to transcribe. And then I would follow up if I needed more materials. So I think it goes both ways depending on, how many people you're interviewing. I mean, for the esports management textbook, I think it was over 80 professionals in the field. That takes a long time. So so that's another kind of pro tip.
I think we're more in the 20 to 30 range. 80 would be, that would be a hill to climb.
Yeah.
So,
but again, my job was to learn, right? So my job embarking on this textbook was to learn as much as possible. And so I needed to really dig in and determine, what is this industry like for our students, and how can I put it into a format which would be a book, but also a full class.
You kind of went backwards into the oldest way of learning, which is to learn by doing, instead of just waiting for someone to teach it to you. Just learn by doing. Just go make mistakes and learn and ask questions, and I love it. So I appreciate your time, Dina. I also wanted to let you know that we are close, not Brandon and I, but a different state. We're actually just completing a mental health and diversity issues in esports study. So hopefully that comes out in the next few months, and I will be happy to share that with you. And it's specifically on D3 schools. So while we didn't get anybody from Endicott, we did get a wide range of schools that have, and we basically interviewed esports athletes, because no one's really asking them any questions right now about how we ask student athletes all the time, how are you coping with the pressures and all these things. So it's providing some unique results, and maybe that's something that will end up in your classroom one day. So we'll see. But we really do appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see this online, and let me know if I can do anything to help both of you.
Thank you.